Guys, Akari here, and in this video I'm going to walk you through how shadow operating actually works. So end to end, A to Z, I'm going to visually break down the entire process. So by the end of the video, you'll have a lot of clarity on how this business works. All right. So let me start off by saying who this video is actually for, because if it's not for you, then you could probably click on the video and then that way you save yourself some time. But if this is you, then keep watching. So you've been doing outreach for weeks and no one's replying. Maybe you're using someone else's script or you've come up with your own and you've been sending messages to influencers, but just haven't found any luck yet. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next is maybe you understand the concept of shadow operating. So you know that you've got to go out, find an influencer, reach out to them, convince them to work with you in a partnership, and then go ahead and build them a digital offer so that you can launch and take a percentage of the revenue, right? But you don't know how to actually execute it because there are a lot of details, a lot of steps in between that it's easy to get stuck on, right? Or you've watched literally every video on this topic on YouTube, but you still can't put it all together. Another thing is, like, I've spoken to a lot of you guys actually on calls and stuff, and I know you've tried previous business models in the past, so it might be drop shipping, freelancing, or other business models that you've tried and just nothing has really stuck. Or you're jumping between ideas and you're getting nowhere. So you've thought about making money online, you've done some research, and then you go to your job or your other commitments in life. Maybe you're a student, maybe you're working full time, and then the days keep passing, the time keeps going, and you're just kind of in this stuck. You're just stuck basically, right? Or you're willing to put in the work, but you just don't know the right steps to follow. So essentially, you want a clear path, you want clear guidance, and rather than having scattered information, you just want direct, like, give me the blueprint, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm literally going to spoon feed you guys the entire process so you'll know how it works. Now, before we get into, the different phases of shadow operating, I want to kind of cover the results I've generated for influencers that I've worked with, right? Because I think it's important to, if you want to be a successful shadow operator and make money online, then I think you should learn from someone who has been successful at shadow operating, right? Because I have seen a lot of people talk about this topic that may not necessarily have the credentials. So yeah, that's why I want to show you the results I've generated. So here are two Stripe accounts. This one is obviously my first client, so the fitness guy I worked with, and that was over a period of 9 months. And then this is an AED, so that's like Emirati dirhams. It's from my Dubai company Stripe account, which is why it's an AED. And that was with another client that I worked with. So both of these people had millions of followers on Instagram, YouTube combined. And essentially, this is the results I've generated. And as well, I've got some payouts, so just some screenshots so you can see different types of payments coming through the Stripe account. So you know that, you're listening to someone who's actually done it, right? Okay, so look, we've covered the results. We've covered who this video is for. I think if you're still watching by now, then you're really going to love what I'm about to show you. Okay, so let's get into the very first phase, which is the foundations. And I think a lot of people skip this phase. They go straight to the outreach, straight to, get me an influencer, but they don't focus on the basics and I always like to use the analogy of a skyscraper, okay? The foundation is what takes the most amount of time, and usually you want to focus on building a very strong foundation before you start building up high. And usually the part where you build each level is like actually quite fast compared to the time spent on the foundation. So if a skyscraper like the Burj Khalifa is taking so long on the foundation and then the top is built faster, then why, when we approach online business, we want to straight away start building levels over a weak foundation, right? That makes sense to you guys, I'm guessing. So it's the same principle, right? We need to make sure we have the foundations in order to scale this business and scale everything. Okay. So first things first, you need to actually understand the model and what we're doing. So let's cover that first. Okay. So shadow operating is very simple to understand. So as a shadow operator, you run the entire back-end business for an influencer on a revenue share basis. So what does that mean? The influencer brings their audience, their trust that they've built up over many years, potentially a decade, and then you bring the business skill set. So, like you are skilled at marketing, you're skilled at building funnels, and your skills in building this in the back end combined with their audience is what will make this business work. Now, if you straight away thought like, wait a sec, I don't have any skills, I'm just getting into this, don't worry. The back end is actually pretty easy to learn. And like, if you stick with me for this video, you'll kind of see how. So if you don't have those skills yet, don't worry. They're very learnable, you could say. Okay. So look, that's the business. And so there's no personal brand required. You don't have to show your face. You don't have to post content. And you don't need to run ads, which is really good. Like, you're essentially a ghost in the background, but you still can make money online. So I think if you want that freedom and you want to actually travel as well and not be stuck to one location, then this would be perfect for you. Like, it's a really good business model for that. When I was doing like shadow operating, when I started back in 2023, I traveled to like 15 countries. I mean, now I'm kind of settled a bit because I need a break from traveling, but the point is like you can keep moving around the world if you make this work. And then, yeah, like you take a percentage of the revenue. So this honestly can range. It just depends on what offer you build the influencer. Like if it's something where more of your time is involved, then you'll be more on the 40-50%. But generally for most offers, you can expect to keep around 30 to 40% of everything generated. So that's really good for you because like if you generate, say, for example, 10K, that's 3 to 4K, 20K, what's that, 6 to 8K, and then that's one client, right? Like, and then if you repeat that process and get another one, then you can double that. So you kind of get the point. Like, if you can get like 1 to 3 clients, you could be making 10 to 20K a month, kind of like recurring, and that's income that you can rely on so that you can actually leave your job and you can actually travel the world and do what you want. So that's kind of the blueprint that I recommend, and that's how shadow operating business model is actually worked. Now, it's really, really important to understand all throughout your communications with the influencer, all throughout the what you're trying to tell the influencer is that there's zero risk on their end because they're not putting up any upfront costs, right? It's literally $0 that they need to pay you. They just need to, you're asking for permission to build them a business that will generate them 10 to 20K a month. So as long as you can get that permission from them without any money up front and just off the revenue, well then, look, like you have a partnership and you can start building this business. So that's kind of the foundation and just to understand like what this business is and kind of the potential of it, right? All right, so we've covered the model. Let's get straight into the mindset. So mindset is something so many people skip, and it's very evident that this part is lacking because when you get to the outreach stage, it gets super hard. You want to give up, and then you want to change business models again, and then you just keep repeating the process. Like this is just something I've seen. So I really think people need to focus on their mindset because this is what's going to make or break this entire business. The actual process is actually pretty easy if you think about it, right? You come sit at your computer or you have your phone, you send some messages on Instagram, and you type on the keyboard and money is generated. Like physically, it's not that difficult. Like if you ask me if I want to send some messages on my phone or go to like a 9-to-5 job working under fluorescent lights, I would choose sending messages on Instagram all day. So like, that's what I mean. Like it's not that bad. And honestly, you can get your first partnership within the first 1 to 2 months. I mean, that's what my clients get, right? Like with working with me, usually 1 to 2 months is the average. Maybe if you go get it alone or yeah, whatever. It could take longer. But the point is, like, a couple months, you could start generating revenue versus going to like university, which is like a 4 year degree, or even learning an instrument. Like, I think guitar takes over a year to learn. So I just want to put that in perspective. It's so much easier to do this compared to the other options out there to make money, right? Or even, look, okay, one more. To be a doctor, how long does that take? I swear it takes 10 years, right? Like, you got to go to med school, you got to work for this thing, got to do this. And by the time you start earning your salary, you're already out of pocket like 300 grand. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. So most people fail before they even start because they still think like a freelancer and not like a business partner. The success of this model is dependent on your ability to show how you're delivering value and how you will become a partner. You're actually building a business for them. You're not selling a service. So a lot of these influencers, maybe they've been messaged by agencies or brands, and they're used to, okay, this is a service. You pay me this upfront, and then I do this. But it's completely different model, and this is why we actually stand out, because we're not offering what everyone else is. We're saying, hey, look, this is a partnership. I'm actually building it for you, and it's minimal time for you. Honestly, no money up front. Let me just do this, right? So one thing that is very important to realize is the outreach part will be the most difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat that to you. I don't know if you've like seen other videos on outreach or if it's made to be easy, but I'm going to tell you it's not that fun. Well, I don't find it fun. Maybe you do, but personally, I don't. But once you can get past that stage and you can actually get replies, actually get partnership calls and get clients, that's when you start getting results and motivation comes. So the biggest thing I would say to you right now, and the biggest piece of advice I can give you, is write down your why. Like, why are you doing online business? Is it because you want to, I don't know, travel the world? You want to leave your job? Maybe you want to retire your parents? You want to provide more for yourself or for your family? It could be anything, right? So have a piece of paper and literally write down your why. So when you are feeling demotivated, when you do feel like you want to give up on outreach, you just look at that why and it'll give you a boost straight away. So that's what I'd recommend for you, and use it as like your motivation reminder, you could say. And that way, when things do get tough, because it's not if, it's when, every business has their challenges, you can look at that and just remind yourself of why you're doing it, right? So yeah, look, the model works. I've done it. My clients are doing it right now. So it's not whether it works, it's whether you'll stay in the business long enough to prove it, okay? So this is phase one, right? So this is the mindset, the model. Now you understand, what shadow operating actually is. You understand the mindset which is required, which is tenacity and just the ability to not give up, okay? So now you understand that. Let's move on straight away to phase two. So phase two is now targeting, right? So we know how it works. Let's get into the niche. Can't say that word. Niche selection. Okay, so niche selection, not all niches are equal. You want an evergreen niche. So what is evergreen? Well, it's something that has high pain points, proven demand, and the audience is emotionally charged, like with this pain, and they are in a buying mode. And so why do we want to pick a niche of influencers anyway? Well, look, there are a lot of influencers out there, but not everyone is the right kind of person to work with. So I like to be selective when it comes to influencers. So the first thing I do is actually pick a niche. And so this is going to really maximize our leverage because firstly, you know that every influencer in your niche is actually someone who has an audience that would be willing to buy the digital product. Because let's say you went ahead and you messaged someone like in the traveling niche, or like productivity or an iPhone reviewer, for example, right? Like there's no pain points behind that. Like if they launch a $500 course or I don't know, something like that, or community, why would someone pay for that? It's just, there's no motivation behind it. So the very first lever that we can pull that was going to buy us the most amount of time back and increase our chances of making the most amount of money is picking a good niche. So it makes a lot of sense to do that to me. So yeah, what examples of evergreen niches? Well, one might be fitness, mindset, health, wealth, love, and happiness. Like those are the four pillars of life, you could say. Yeah, even dating is a really good one. Like, people, of course, they want to find their dream partner, or maybe they're healing after a breakup or something like that, right? So you want to find influencers who are talking about this type of content, right? So, like, for example, it might be a guy or girl who's super fit and they're in shape, they got abs, they're posting workout videos, and then they got a lot of followers. Wow, you know that people are following them because they want to aspire to that as well, or they want to get the same results. So that's what I'm talking about when I mean like a niche to pick. So my advice is to pick one niche and concentrate on that and go deep. So like that way you can kind of get an idea of the messaging, you can kind of get an idea of what you're looking for, and you have a focus, right? And if you have a couple partnerships in one niche, well, let's say you get one partner, you can leverage that partnership to get another partnership, right? Does that make sense? So like, let's say you get your first client, you launch a digital offer, you start generating results. Well, then the next influencer in the same niche, you can say, hey, look, I've just helped this person over here, also in the fitness niche, generate results. Let me do the same for you. And so it's honestly so much easier that way. But yeah, so that's what I'd recommend. Pick your niche, and that will determine the quality of influencers that you'll find. Okay? All right, so let's move on to the criteria. So the criteria is actually like, okay, now you know your niche. Let's say you are on a fitness influencer. How do you know they meet the right criteria? Because there's two things we want to do. We want to pick the right niche and make sure they meet the right criteria. And then you could actually reach out to them after that. But firstly, criteria. So you are looking for a creator who has an audience, but a monetization gap. And that gap is your leverage. So this could be someone who has an offer, has like a link in their bio. It might be an ebook for $5, which I've seen. And that frustrates me so much when I see an influencer like with like tons of followers, like posting great content, and then they got a terrible website and they're selling a $5 ebook. It's like, this person could make so much money. But yeah, anyway, so they either have something, right? It might be a link tree, a stand store, an ebook. These are the common things we're looking for. Or they might have no link at all. So literally, like, honestly, like they haven't even thought about it, or they don't know how to do it, or they don't have the time. Any scenario there, we can help them, right? And so the best platforms I've found are honestly Instagram and YouTube. There are plenty of creators, influencers on those platforms that you'll be able to find and actually partner with. And so why I also think this business model is so good is that there are like honestly hundreds of thousands, millions of influencers, and a very small percent actually monetize properly. Like as you go out and you actually start to look for influencers, you'll see how little people are actually monetizing properly. So with shadow operators, like there's less of us. It's basically a blue ocean business right now. So if you haven't started yet, this is a perfect time for you. But yeah, so what are good signs of an influencer, right? Because we need to make sure they're good to work with. Well, if you're a client of mine, just go to the influencer criteria checklist doc, and you'll see all the criteria there, like the green flags and red flags. But yeah, just a quick couple ones here is obviously they're posting consistently, have an engaged audience, and either no offer or a weak one. So once you've found a good influencer to reach out to, well, then the next step and the next phase is actually acquisition. So we want to reach out to them and secure a partnership with them. So if we start with outreach, okay? Now, the very first message is so important. Like, you need to explain what you do, create curiosity, and make it so easy for them to reply, okay? Because the goal of this first message isn't to go back and forth. It's to get them on a call, where we can explain the business model in more detail and get them to agree to a partnership. And so, honestly, this is where 80% of people give up, right? They haven't had any success yet. They struggle to get replies and they just get stuck. And it's really sad to see, because I know if they had that one-on-one guidance or had someone over their shoulder or someone to keep them accountable, they could make it work. Because at the end of this day, like, honestly, like, you can understand this business, right? It's, you go out, find an influencer and do it, right? But implementing it is a whole nother thing. And that's something where one-on-one would really, really help you guys. So yeah, like, imagine if you had me, for example, to guide you step by step through the entire process. So I'll teach you exactly like the foundations, how to learn outreach properly. You'd get access to my proven scripts that are responsible for getting not only my clients, but my clients' influencers, right? So you would avoid so much mistakes, and you would essentially have the direct step-by-step guidance and blueprint so you can get results within a couple months and stop wasting time, right? So yeah, like, outreach is the phase, honestly, where it's like make or break. But if you can get past this part in combination with the right strategy, consistency, and mindset, you will be able to secure a call, right? So that's the next step, is securing a partnership. And so this is essentially a call where you're with the influencer, right? And you want to ask them basically like how their monetization's going, and you want to come across as very professional, because if you even show any signs of doubt, any signs of unprofessionalism, that honestly, they will pick up on that. Because believe it or not, I mean, these influencers probably get a lot of messages. Maybe they have been on a call with someone before, and it might have not been for a shadow operating thing. It could have been for an agency. It could have been for, I don't know, like a brand. But they're probably pretty good at picking up, like, and they can see the difference between people of how they take the calls. So you really need to have conviction here that you'll be able to pull this off for them and make it clear that there's no risk for them. Okay, so remind them, look, this is a partnership. You're not a VA. You're not gonna be doing a service. You guys are gonna be partners. And so if you've done this call right, well, then you would have secured yourself a partnership. And if you're watching this and you have a partnership, congratulations to you. You've honestly reached a stage that 99% of people haven't done, and you're really one step away from revenue. So yeah, that is phase 3, reaching out and securing a partnership. Okay. All right, let's move on to phase 4, which is my favorite part because it's the funnest. And honestly, phase 1 to 3 are essential, but phase 4 is like where the money starts to come. Okay. So this is execution. Now, the very first thing, obviously, when you get an influencer is to actually go out and build the offer. And so if we get into this, like, you want to bull the machine, okay? So we need to first determine the right digital offer for their audience. And there is a proper strategy for this. It's kind of a secret that I teach my clients because it's very effective. And so you want to essentially build a digital offer based around the influencer's audience. And it could be anything. It depends on the audience, and it depends on how much time the influencer has. For example, maybe they want to do one-on-one coaching, or maybe they want to do something like just a course, or maybe it's a course and group calls. So honestly, just depends. But you want to go out, build a digital offer, and make sure the influencer is happy with it. And along with that, of course, you want to set up the payments, the systems, the funnel, how things work, and kind of give them a guidance on the marketing strategy. Because when you launch, of course, you want it to do well at the beginning, but you also need to know how to actually scale it and how to retain members. So it's a whole engine, whole machine, and a whole business that you're building here. And so things need to be done properly. So yeah, that's kind of like building the offer stage. You want to build something that's going to be valuable. And one thing I'll say here is you want to make sure that you work with speed, because if you can go fast and retain quality, so work hard and smart and do smart and hard hours, long hours, well, then you're going to show to the influencer that you're dedicated. They'll be more motivated. The business will do well. You make more money. So that's what you want to do here, right? You don't want to drag this out and have it take many months. Okay. So yeah, that's building the offer. Now, launch. Okay. So this is kind of like the final part really of this phase. And once you launch, it's kind of like, that's it. Like, of course, you're going to scale it and grow it, but this is really what you're working towards from when you start sending messages to getting them on as a partner to building it. You're all aiming towards the launch, right? It's your first milestone here. So you have an audience now because you've partnered with the influencer. You've essentially been able to leverage their audience, and you've also built out a digital offer at this phase, right? So now what you want to do is turn that machine on. And the goal is to maximize the influencer's organic traffic first and then convert them into a paying customer. And so something I'll say here that I think is going to make this business a lot more profitable for you and kind of have you rely on monthly income is setting up a recurring offer. So rather than doing a one-time payment or selling some like low quality AI course, well, then you'd launch, maybe you'd make a couple hundred, a couple thousand, and then it'll flop and you got to go find the next influencer and repeat. And just, that's not a real business in my opinion. I think it's really lazy and really like short-sighted. So this way I'm saying like, pick the right influencer, build a real partnership, and scale the business over many months to a year. That's what I did. And yeah, I was able to generate over 7 figures from that. So if you're able to set up a recurring offer, it's honestly the best. That's my opinion. And then that way, all you need to do is keep the members happy, retain them, and basically keep that on autopilot. And then once that revenue is coming in and you're making the members happy, then you go out and find your next influencer and repeat the process. So now you can see how powerful this is because you can essentially build up an income stream, right, within a couple months. And of course, the first time you do it, it will take a bit more time because you don't know what you're doing. It's the first time doing the messages, the calls. It's kind of a skill set in yourself. Like if you've never done this business, then you're learning along the way. But still, with that, if you do things and you follow the right strategy, you can have revenue in 3 months. And so when you repeat the process, it's going to be a lot faster because you already know how to send messages. You already know how to take calls, and you have social proof to leverage because you've done it for someone before. So the growth in this business is truly exponential. And if you can make it to that point, you will honestly, yeah, you're going to have like the freedom and the money that you want. Okay. So look, the main thing with the launch, of course, you want to promote it, but scale it as well. And make sure you retain members if you have a recurring offer, or if you have a one-time offer, that's fine too, but make sure it's priced appropriately and everything is optimized. All right. So that is shadow operating end to end. We literally covered everything there, as you can see. So we went from the model, the mindset, all the way to launch. Those are all the phases involved. If you like what you saw, feel free to click that link in the description if you want to apply to work with me one-on-one. And I can actually go into more detail and walk you step by step throughout this entire process. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.